Howdy, y'all. This is Los Man here, and what I'm going to be doing here is a more in-depth description of a movie I watched last week. I mentioned the movie The Phoenix Forgotten during my weekly roundup, but I wanted to go into a little more background into the movie outside of the brief description that I did. Now, The Phoenix Forgotten is a movie that I've been seeing in pop up on my video searches, and I've actually seen it at Walmart and Best Buy, and I was kind of curious because I have actually seen some other movies that use the elements of the Phoenix Lights as a plot element. If you're not familiar with it, the Phoenix Lights was an incident in 1997 where a large number of people in the city of Phoenix reported mysterious lights that were spotted over the city. Now, of course, as with most UFO encounters, you get the usual description of or explanation being that, oh well, it was just military jets or flares or what's the old one that say swamp gas, or weather balloons. That's there's a funny shirt out there that's weather balloon, weather balloon, weather balloon, and actual weather balloon. Oh, swamp gas, as a play on that, because UFO movies are interesting. As a kid, I used to love watching anything with UFOs and spaceships. One of my favorite shows was a program called In Search of, and that was hosted by Leonard Nimoy. And you always had episodes that had discussions about UFOs, and those were always interesting. And as I got older, I was always looking for movies or books that had descriptions of UFOs. So I learned more about, let's say, Thomas Martel and the I believe the Betty and Barney Hill stories. Those were always the ones that really creeped me out a bit. Because they were supposedly true stories about alien encounters, and so I've always been fascinated with movies about UFOs. Now, I'm from San Antonio, and San Antonio has kind of a unique connection here. It's the hometown of author Whitley Strieber, who is known for the movie Communion, and that's a famous story about a alien abduction. So that was always something that was it was an interesting tie into my hometown. Like, yeah, if you've ever been to San Antonio, San Antonio's got quite a bit of history. I hopefully want to incorporate some more movies descriptions and other discussions, including my hometown. So that should be interesting. But I'm going to go back to Phoenix Forgotten. Now, Phoenix Forgotten is a 2017 found footage movie directed by Justin Barber. And the movie, like I said, involves the Phoenix Lights. Now, the story itself starts out with a young woman explaining a videotape that was shown. It's basically it's a birthday party. She's a little girl, and she talks about her family, and then she shows her brother, who's about 6-7 years older than her, and she then mentions that it was the last time she saw her brother. The next day he disappeared. Now, the story then goes into an explanation about how her brother was a student who, as part of a video project, decided to look into the Phoenix Lights because when during the course of his little sister's birthday, the family basically witnesses the Phoenix Lights in the distance, and then it's interrupted by a pair of fighter jets that basically zoom over their house. More likely, basically very loud. They were probably hitting afterburners, which, if you're not familiar with afterburner, that's basically what pushes a jet at its highest speed. So, if you've ever been around a jet, they're very loud, and when they fly over you, and they're even at subsonic speed, they are loud. The windows rattle, and it'll scare you quite a bit. I've been to air shows, and that's one of the things that they like to thrill people with is a high-speed flyby, with an F-16 or an F-18, and those planes are fast. Now, a plane doing low-altitude flight with its afterburner would even be more intense, because that's a lot more power and a lot more surprise. Plus, if they're breaking the sound barrier, that's also gonna startle you quite a bit. So after this event, he decides to take some video equipment with him and a group of his friends out to investigate the what happened. He basically gets using maps of his town. He's able to look at previous encounters with these lights and determine the location of where it might be. Now, of course, along the way, he brings along a friend of his and a young lady that he meets, while he's interviewing people about UFOs, and he kind of takes a liking to her. So the three of them go out and they basically, they plan to go out into the desert. They take some supplies with him. They're gonna go camping and hiking through the through the desert and the rocks. But along the way, you learn that you don't want to be doing that in some areas of the country, especially near military installations. There is a situation where they do encounter some police, and they have to get the heck out of there, because they're trespassing, and so at that point, the video cuts out, and that's it. They disappeared. In the modern time, they show the sister of the main character, and she's older. She's in her 20s now. It's been 20 years since her brother disappeared, and there's been no answers. The videos that they found just showed them going off, looking for UFOs, but nothing else. Their car was found abandoned, and they didn't have any evidence of what happened. They of course, the theories were, well, they got lost in the desert. They fell in a hole or in a cave, and no one's been able to explain what happened to them. Well, that's when the story gets interesting. Okay, I'm gonna throw out some mild spoilers here. I'm not gonna reveal the end of the movie, obviously, but I will fill you in on some general details of what happens in this movie. A video camera is found, and the video camera was property of the school. It's beaten up, but they're able to retrieve the tape from inside, and once they play it, you get to see what happens next. Basically, the three individuals proceed on to the desert, and they have quite a close encounter. It's interesting, and as found footage movies goes, this one was actually pretty good. I actually enjoyed it. Because there's been such a saturation of found footage movies over the past 20 years, ever since the release of the Blair Witch Project, a lot of found footage movies kind of fall into the same, they use a lot of the same material, a lot of the same, cliches, I guess, or techniques. They oftentimes the shaky camera, which annoys people, and then you also get the scenes of, the green filter, the IR filter, I guess, to show what's going on at night, because that way you get to make it seem a little more, realistic. Like, oh no, there's mysterious things going on. Let's turn on the green filter. Yeah, plus it's nighttime, so you got to be able to see something. So, oh well. And then of course the often used characters being pulled away suddenly by something supernatural or something creepy. Which is the reason why so many found footage movies I watch just seem like they're just telling the same story over again in a different location. Now, Phoenix Lights did remind me of a movie called The Last Broadcast, which actually came out a year before the Blair Witch Project. Now, that's not to say that it's a derivative movie. I mean, it's like any other found footage movie. It's basically. You have elements of the Blair Witch Project and The Last Broadcast and probably about a dozen other found footage movies. But, Phoenix Forgotten's not a bad movie. I actually enjoyed it. I think a really good found footage movie works best when you have a cast of unknown individuals. I mean, if you have famous people in there, you kind of go, this is fake. But if you have people you don't recognize, it makes the story seem a little more spontaneous, a little more real. Like you're watching, like hidden videos. And quite literally, I mean the very term found footage, that's the definition. I mean, this movie they find a camera with lost footage. So that pretty much takes care of the found footage concept and the explanation. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to watch Phoenix Forgotten, I watched it on Tubi, and I liked it. It was a good story. The I didn't reveal what happens toward the last 30 minutes, when they watch the second tape, or when they watch the found tape, because I want you to go out there and enjoy that and watch it. I mean, it's a really good, really, really terrifying and creepy story. So, yeah, that's a movie I watched last week. Once again, it's Phoenix Forgotten, and it has Justin Barber. It stars Florence Hartigan, Jeannie Jackson, Chelsea Lopez, Luke Spencer Roberts, and Sid Strittenmatter. None of these names really come up. I mean, I'm sure some of them have done some other movies, but nothing really major. But like I said, that's what makes the movie interesting. It helps throw in a little bit of realism. That like maybe you are watching footage of someone who disappeared and under mysterious circumstances. So now, what I'm going to probably do, along with the Lowspan 300, is the occasional movie description like this, where I go into a little more in-depth detail of specific movies that I've watched. And as not going to so much focus on movies exclusive to the 300, I'm also going to include movies that I've watched before. So in future videos, I'll talk about movies like You're Next and Aliens and other movies that that I really enjoy or thought were interesting, worth checking out. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out right now, and wish y'all a good day.